Welcome to Women of Steel with me, Miriam Grace, the podcast where women who've had their mettle tested help us make important links for ourselves. I talk to remarkable women about their lives and challenges through the lens of my own work as a psychotherapist. We uncover stories which challenge the power of the status quo and validate the voices of marginalised or disadvantaged women. A dog saved Dawn Brown's life, and dogs are her world. In her journal at age 14, Dawn wrote that one day she wanted to own the best dog kennels in the UK. So listen to us today as we explore how this dream came true. From humble beginnings in Sheffield through many difficulties, Dawn has found her way forward and created a unique business where she adds happiness and improved well-being to dogs' lives and also to the well-being of her staff. We talk about our mental health, our dogs, pet bereavement, and also about dogs' mental health and how we can give back to them. Warning, this episode contains reference to suicidal feelings and the loss of a pet. Welcome, Dawn. I'm so pleased that we've managed to catch you because I know that you have such a busy day. What's today been like over at Dogland?
So Miriam, the weather has been amazing. So when the weather's hot and the sun shines out, for the 2 weeks a year that we actually get some sunshine, we get to make use of our splash zone, which is an outdoor splash pad with a natural waterfall and jets. And the dogs absolutely love going in there, splashing about, cooling down naturally through the pads on the feet, and they have a whale of a time. So that's what we've been doing today. So all the dogs that we've got on site are in different packs in the different areas to stimulate them mentally, physically, emotionally, and socially. And they've all had to go in the splash area. And it's been absolute chaos, but they've absolutely loved it.
And do the staff get in the water as well?
Oh God, yeah. We get our wellies on and we get in there with the dogs. And to be honest, I think they have a better time sometimes than the dogs do. But yeah, especially Chris, he's the one that's in there with his wellies on, enjoying the water. Why not? When the sun's out, it's just a no-brainer.
Well, the splash zone has done wonders for my dogs who go to Dogland, because we took them up to Scotland. I think we'd only had them a couple of months, and they were quite nervous and scared of the sea. And then we went again a year later, and this was after they'd been with you for a year, and they were, I wouldn't say that they're not swimmers, they're not like when we had a Labrador, but they're paddling and they're going in the water, and we were like, this will be the splash zone at doggy daycare.
It's a bit like us. Once we've got that confidence, then you're off, aren't you? And we build it up gradually and slowly. And obviously, once they're in a pack and they see the other dogs doing it, they're thinking, oh, well, I might as well give it a go because they're all right. So I'm going to have a go. And then they all jump on board. And before you know it, they absolutely love it. So, yeah, that's good to hear that they enjoy going into sea now and paddling.
Yeah, and that pack idea, is that your idea, Dawn, to have them in packs and to sort of just not have all the dogs doing the same thing at the same time?
Yes. So obviously I've started working with dogs when I was very young, and I've learned a lot about dog body language and dog psychology. So we mix and match our dogs in small manageable packs that we match their temperament, their size, their character, because every dog's got a character, as you know yourself, and no two dogs are the same. So matching them together, you've really got to know your stuff to make sure you get the right pack. But then once you do, and you get that pack synergy, it's great to watch. And I can talk you through an alpha dog and who's the boss, who's the shy ones, and really like get into character with the dogs. And then what we do then is we move them around the different paddocks so that in their pack they get to experience the full experience that we offer at Dogland. So we are physically, mentally, emotionally, and socially ticking all the boxes, a bit like ourselves. So we need basic needs, hierarchy of needs, and it's the same for the dogs. So we try to tick all the boxes with it.
Tell me about the different paddocks. What have you got?
So we've got an agility paddock. So that's for the fun, energetic, get all that energy out when they first come in the morning.
Mm.
We've got a chill out room with beds, sofas, soft bedding. There's nothing in there. There's no toys to stimulate them. It's just soft, relaxing music. And research shows that reggae music is now the music to play to relax your dog. So we have
Mm.
reggae music playing in there. Sounds crazy, but it's all on a frequency. Dogs work on frequencies.
Mm.
So the right frequency to chill your dog out is apparently reggae. So who are we to argue? So when they go in the
Mm.
snooze room, they literally just calm down, snooze. Because some dogs get overexcited, and we need to watch the body language for that and pull them out so that they rest. It's
Mm.
not all about the fun and the playing. They need to know when to turn off as well. So that's really
Mm.
important.
Mm.
So there's a snooze room. Then we've got the scent garden, which is a new addition.
Mm.
So the scent garden is all about natural scents that stimulate a dog's brain. So we've got lots of natural herbs in there. Lavender, obviously that is a calming herb for us, and it is for dogs as well. Lemongrass, stimulating herb, but they love to sniff, and a dog's obviously natural instinct is to sniff. So in that paddock, they're getting to do what they're naturally trained to do, which is sniff,
Mm. Mm.
and they love it. And then we've got the orchard area, which is a fun place for them to socialise and mix. We've got tyres for them to jump on. I'm sure you've seen the social media posts where they're stood on top of the tyres. You can always tell who the alpha dog is because they're always on top of the tyres, higher than the rest of
Right.
the pack. And then we've got things like the indoor play barn. So if the weather's not on our side, we can have some indoor fun as well.
Mm.
Um, Obviously, the kennels, they've all got heating. Some have got air conditioning, TVs,
Mm.
beds, but
Mm.
none of the dogs are in the kennels in the day. They're out in the paddocks playing, socialising, and doing what they should be doing. And then, obviously, the kennels are for the night time where they can just chill and relax in a nice,
Mm.
warm space.
Yeah. So the kennels are for the dogs that are boarding, but the daycare dogs, they're not going in kennels at all.
No, absolutely
Mm.
not. Unless they're a puppy and they need feeding. So
Mm.
obviously we have to take them away from a pack environment to feed.
Mm.
And then it's crucial that we let them rest for at least an hour after they've consumed some food so that we don't get bloat or twisted tummies. So that's really important. So that's the only time that they would go in a kennel, but then we'd turn the TV on for them. So it's a bit like being in the living room at home. So
Mm.
it's a nice environment for them to have their lunch. And then we'd introduce them back to the pack once that time has passed.
Yeah, so the facilities that you're talking about are really about, they're attuned to dogs' needs. And I'm wondering what you've worked a long time with dogs and you've worked for other people, you've worked in other kennels. How did you get to this point of developing your difference, your ethos?
So I started working in kennels when I was 13, and I literally picked up the poo. That's all they allowed me to do. But bizarrely, I loved it. What I didn't love was how the dogs were treated. So
Mm.
back then, it was in kennels. They'd got a 20-minute walk if they were lucky, and then they were back in solitude. So I saw the disaster on that side. So I saw the negative side effects like the diarrhea, the going home with no voice box because they'd been barking constantly because they were bored. So I thought back then at 13, I journaled one day I would own the best kennels in the UK. And in 2020, we won that accolade, that national accolade, because of how we do it. So, as you quite rightly said, I've worked in a lot of corporate kennels and I've seen the same sort of care all the way along. And I've seen some horror stories as well, which I could tell you about, but even this to this day gives me shivers.
Mm.
And what I thought was, I'm going to take all the best bits and leave the rubbish bits behind. And
Mm.
then I'm going to create somewhere that has never existed before. So I like the ethos of Disneyland for dogs. It's an
Mm.
experience. And that's really what I've tried to bring to Rose Cottage, which is part of obviously the Dogland brand.
Mm.
And my ethos behind it is because dogs are part of our family and they should be treated as such. So they deserve to have a nice environment where they can play and they can socialize in a safe space. And then owners then see the benefit of that. So
Mm.
they then get, at the end of the day, they get a well-rounded pup that's ready for a sleep because it's being stimulated and every single need's being ticked.
Mm.
And it's just a no-brainer. And a lot of kennels don't do that because it's labor intensive. And you've got to have the training on the body language and the psychology to be able to do it correctly. And that's what they don't want to invest in. Whereas at Dogland, we've created our own training academy based around doing that so that we can roll this out nationwide so that all doggies can experience Dogland.
I mean, I think that it's not that different, your work to mine. Some of the language is a little bit different, but my sense is we can't do therapy if somebody's nervous system is strung out. And so, the real basics of somebody feeling safe in the therapy room, that has to be in place first of all. And we think of children at school, now they want them to be hydrated, so they need to have drunk plenty so the brains can work, and so on. So finally, we're joining the dots for humans and for dogs. And of course, in terms of reactivity, I'm working with that with human beings. We can be reactive as well. If we don't feel safe, we snap. We might not bite somebody, but we can upset other people because our nervous systems aren't regulated. Our basic needs, we might have ignored, we might have skipped a meal, we might have, not had enough rest time, and so on. And we're not our best selves. So I think this, you're working with help, the dog will naturally regulate themselves if they're given the environment to do that in. So the fault isn't in, in the owner or the dog or the so on. It is about, whether that dog is able to do what they naturally need to do to be a balanced doggy.
Yeah, exactly that. And what we found is, especially since COVID, when COVID came along, the number of dogs in the UK risen, and it was actually they overtook cats as being the number one pet. Now, everybody, well, not everybody, but most people were working from home because of the situation that they found
Mm,
themselves in COVID. And those dogs that they bought in COVID spent a hell of a lot of time with their owners. So they then become bonded to their owner, which
mm,
quite rightly so, that's what we want our dogs to
mm,
do. But then when reality kicked in and they had to go back to work, they're then starting to look for alternative care for the dogs. But then when you break that bond without any slow introduction and rewiring that dog's brain that it
mm,
can actually be away from you and be a dog and be in a pack environment, it caused a lot of separation anxiety in dogs, and
mm.
people don't understand that that is an actual issue, and we've had to work very closely with COVID dogs to reintegrate them back into a pack environment and to really build up that trust and that confidence in not only us but the other dogs as well, because they had no socialization skills. There was no puppy classes because we weren't allowed to hold them,
Yeah.
so we've had to go along that journey and almost hold their paw in
Mm,
every sense of the word,
yeah.
and re-educate the owners as well, because we can't just wave a magic wand and make that dog into a social dog and all the rest of it. It
Mm,
takes time, it's a journey, and you
mm,
have to do it slowly. To do it the right way, you've got to do it slowly to build up that trust and rewire that dog's brain to make it aware that it can be a dog and it can enjoy time with other dogs and away from its mum or its dad.
mm.
So yeah, I get that. I totally get that.
And so I'm sure that people who haven't got dogs, who are listening, who have children, this is really ringing a bell. The re-entry into society after COVID is true for all of us. And one of my bugbears at the moment is when we were in COVID, people were going, the second wave of the pandemic will be mental health, and now everyone's got mental health problems. People are going, why is everybody getting diagnosed with mental health problems? As if the pandemic never happened. But, we're still living it out. And I think our dogs are. And I was saying to you before we pressed record that at the moment my two dogs don't need to come to you, but they are. I mean, we don't need them to. We could be around for them 24/7, but they need to have more than just us to trust in. And this idea that they're building up this trust with your staff, with other human beings, but also with other dogs, and those relationships. It's so important because there's a window when the socialization ideally should happen, and that my two pups that are with you, they missed that ideal window. So it's like they're having to learn a bit later in life, and then that does take longer. It's a bit like if you or I were going to learn French, we would have a much better accent if we start at age 5 than if we start age 25.
Yeah.
You can still learn French, but you'll
It
always
takes
speak with
time.
an yeah, you'll always speak with an English accent. And my one of my 2 pups is particularly nervous of people because she didn't really have a lot to do with people for a few months. And something that you do at Dogland is that you have a trial day to see whether that's an appropriate place for them. And I think one of the first layers of trust was built with me when the feedback from Gracie's first day was, we don't know. We'd like her to do a second trial day. And it's then that that it sort of occurred to me, oh, you're not just after my money. You actually want my dog to be happy and comfortable there. That seemed different to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of places don't do that. They don't have a trial system. And especially for boarding as well, in the corporate kennels I worked in, all you did when you rocked up there was give your name, your address, an emergency contact number, and what your dog ate.
Mm,
They didn't
mm,
ask you anything. So my intensive dog profile before I even meet anybody's dog, ask them the absolute ins and outs of everything so that I can get a good understanding of that dog, and my team can,
mm,
before then we start to care for it. And then the trials, that's for your peace of mind and for our peace of mind, because I
mm,
wouldn't want any dog to come to Rose Cottage and not enjoy it. That's not what I set this business up for. I want them whining at the gate to get in and not wanting to go home.
mm,
That's the ideal scenario, and many
mm,
days we tick that box.
mm,
I've had men in tears because when they've dropped the dog off for the first time, they've been really upset and anxious about dropping the dog off for the first
mm.
time, which is like dropping your kid off at nursery for the
It
first
is.
day. But then, so they've been in tears in the morning, and I've said, right, enough with the tears, because the frequency, the dog senses that. You've really just got to man up, get in your car and drive off and trust
Hmm.
us to look after your dog. And then at the end of the day, when the dog's absolutely not bothered about the owner and don't want to go home, I've had them in tears again. Like, it means you've
Yeah.
done a good job. Your
Mm,
dog can talk to you. You just need to know how to listen and how to look to see what it's saying.
mm, mm,
Um, and for many dogs, they just jump out the car, they don't even look back.
mm.
And some owners are like, oh, bye then. That's
Oh,
good.
I'm always pleased, because there's always that moment to, do they want to go? And then, as soon as we get through the gate, I just crack the windows open a bit so they can smell where they are, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
they're standing up and their tails are wagging, and they're really really excited to be arriving, and that is a really nice thing, a nice way to be able to leave your dog. Now, I'm
Yeah.
imagining by this point, anybody who doesn't love dogs has probably switched off. But those who do love dogs are probably thinking that you're a bit jammy, which for anybody who's not local means lucky. That you've got the best job in the world, which isn't true because I think I've got the best job in the world. But anyway, but it wasn't always easy for you, Dawn. Your confidence now and the way you talk with, such knowledge and belief, self-belief. That isn't the old you. That isn't where you started, is it?
No, absolutely not. There's been some really dark times, Miriam, that if I hadn't have had a dog in them dark times, I wouldn't be sat here today talking to you.
Mm,
So yes, from the outside looking in, it looks like I've got the ultimate dream job, which I haven't got a job. I've got a lifestyle, and
mm,
I love this lifestyle that I've got. And
mm,
hopefully, I'll be able to train other people to have the same lifestyle that I've got. But right back in the beginning, I'll go back to working in corporate kennels and hated it, absolutely hated it. I was working in kennels in Leicester, and ethically, I couldn't carry on. I was trying to do my best for all the dogs that were there, but I'm one person and I physically couldn't look after all the dogs that was on site. So I moved back to Sheffield. Now, in 2010, my dad got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and growing up I was a daddy's girl. I was always outside on the allotments and with my dad. And then, excuse me, he got told he'd got 6 months to live. Now, my dad had no money. I've come from humble beginnings. Back in the day when we were kids, we played Kirby on the street. We didn't have a summer holiday. We had no money whatsoever. But my love of animals and my love of dogs kept me going, and I was outside more than I was inside.
Mm.
And then when he dropped the bombshell that he'd got pancreatic cancer, it was like a bolt of lightning going through me. And I thought, oh my God, like I'm losing the one person that means the whole world to me. And he said to me, stop messing about working for other people, because I knew at 13 I wanted to work with dogs, but life gets in the way and you've got to get money and you've got to have a proper job. And I'd done things, I'd worked in corporate kennels, and then I'd got a job on the side at the co-op, and one thing and another. But my passion was always dogs. And he said to me, Dawn, he went, small acorns grow mighty oaks. He said, and you've got to be the mighty oak, and you've got to stop working for everybody else and start following your passion and your dreams in life. He said, don't do what I've done and just exchanged my time for money. You've really now got to find your purpose in life. And I believe that's dogs. So I was like, wow, okay. So if that's not a reality check, I don't know what is. So I started my journey with dogs. And that's when I moved to Leicester and I got the job in a kennels, and I did online courses at night time. And I was a single mum at the time. So I was skint basically. But I was working all hours God sends, and I was learning all this knowledge. But like I said, ethically, I couldn't carry on with how the owner ran the kennels. It was just about the money. And it really upset me how the dogs were getting trapped. So I moved back to Sheffield with my daughter. And literally, Miriam, we had 500 quid to his name. And it was make or break time. And I'd got my dad in my head saying, come on, follow your dreams, follow your passion, don't give up yet, you small acorn, grow mighty oaks and all this. I'd got 500 quid and a little girl to look after. So it was like, what do I do? So I bought a van. I thought, now I'm going to go for it. I've got my dad behind me. I know spiritually he's around me, and I'm going to go for it. So I bought a van. It was the shocking most van. Honestly, it sounded like Chitty Bang Bang. It was that bad. And me and Lily painted the bonnet pink because at the time that was Lily's favourite colour. And we handmade flyers and we delivered them out locally. And I was living with my mum and dad, my mum, sorry, in my mum and dad's old house till I could afford a rented place of my own. And we built up a dog walking round, and it was great. I was finally getting to work with dogs, supporting my child, renting my home place, and it was growing. And people then started asking me for daycare. Some asked me for boarding. So I got a license for home boarding and daycare. And it was really taking off. But mentally, I was struggling. So I was struggling because running a business is hard. And I didn't realize how hard it was back in the beginning. I just knew I wanted to work with dogs, and that was my passion. And I had a dog myself. I had a black Labrador called Molly. And Molly knew me inside out, back to front and upside down. And I knew her the same. She was my soulmate. And I used to walk Molly before I walked anybody else's dogs. That was the routine. Drop Lily off at school, walk Molly, walk other people's dogs, and then go and pick Lily up from school. And I was mentally in a dark place, a seriously dark place with suicidal thoughts. And this particular day, I thought I can't carry on. My daughter will be better off without me. I'm not making masses of money. She wasn't having parties and going on school trips and all that jazz because I was a single mum. It was hard work. I had no self-esteem, no confidence. Thought I can't do this. Self-doubt, procrastination, all the negative stuff was just overtaking my brain. And I can't swim. I'm terrified of water. I was walking Molly round a reservoir, and I decided that is it. I've had enough. I can't carry on now. This is a bitter pill to swallow for anybody that's had these feelings. And my advice to somebody who has had these dark thoughts is reach out and talk to somebody, even if it's a text or a call, because there's so much more to life. And you can always find that silver lining in that cloud. You've just got to look a bit harder. I was on the brink of jumping in the lake, and I can't swim. Molly saved my life. She would not stop barking. I had to get off the bridge to shut the dog up because she
Mm.
literally would not shut up. And some might say that I'm selfish and what would have happened to my dog. And but I'd left a note and it was all organized. I just couldn't carry on, or I didn't think I could. And then as I got off the bridge to get Molly to stop her from barking, because I ultimately think she knew what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I fell into some daffodils. It was springtime, and I don't know what happened in them daffodils. It was a bit like an epiphany moment, and
Mm.
I just heard my dad's voice saying, like, telling me off. Really, what are you doing? You've got so much more to give. And I knew
Mm.
then I just needed to carry on. Um,
Mm.
I can't express all that because it's just it to anybody listening. It's just so overwhelming. But that truly was the turning point in my confidence, my self-esteem. So I went on a personal development journey, listening to audibles, journaling again, um, just mental health and essential oils and crystals. And I went on this total journey and it
Mm.
transformed my life, literally transformed my life. And fast forward to 2017 when I met John.
Mm.
Um, he's now my fiance. I chewed his ear off about dogs on our first date.
Mm.
And I went in all my dog walking gear. I smelt and looked like a wet dog. And I thought, if he's the guy for me, he's going to appreciate what I look like because
Mm.
this is me and this is who I am. And I'd committed to this now. Um, and he asked me on a second date. So I thought, oh, well, he can't think I was that bad. And we went on a second date. And again, I chewed his ear off about dogs. And he said, do you know what? It's your passion. I can tell. I can feel your passion. I can feel your energy for this. He said, and I'm going to let you have Rose, like build my business at Rose Cottage, was his home. And I said to him, are you sure? Because your ranking in the pack is going to go way down because it's kids and then you. And you were like, no, no,
Mm.
that's absolutely fine. I know what I'm getting into. And I don't think I came up for air for 2 years. I literally worked all hours God sent to build my dream place, Disneyland
Yeah.
for dogs, a space that had never existed before.
No.
And finally, I'd got somebody behind me that actually believed I could do it
Mm.
and help me, support me, and the rest is history.
So
So
he offered you Rose Cottage on date number two.
pretty much because I think he
Wow.
was sick of hearing about me chewing his ear off about dogs. Because I'd got the dog walking business up and running and I was doing the daycare, but I was still renting a 3-bedroom semi-detached in Sheffield and I couldn't do any more than what I was doing. And it was, and I'm one of them that wants to take over the world and every dog should enjoy time without their owners in a space that is just fun and socialization and all the rest of it. So I think he thought, I'm not going to have a choice here.
Mm. Well, you've just taken us on this journey from almost stepping off the world. You know, it's like I've had enough. I want to leave the world, and preparing it to the extent of writing a letter to we're now wanting to take over the world to make it this wonderful dog friendly, happy dog place. And you do put a lot of that down to Molly.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. She was
Mm.
my anybody who's got a dog knows what I'm talking about. The bond that you've got with your dog is it's just inseparable. It's unbreakable.
Mm.
Um, and
Mm.
they know because everything with the dog is a frequency. So if you're sad, your dog comes and consoles you. But how does it know you're sad? Because you can't say I'm sad today. It
Mm.
knows because you're on a different frequency.
Yeah.
So when you're excited and you're happy, your dog's excited and happy because again, it's mirroring your frequency.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously science is back this, and I
Mm.
truly believe in it.
Mm.
And she knew that day that I was going to do something that was, and I was in a low place. And had
Mm.
she not have continued to bark, I don't think I'd be here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, absolutely. so much gratitude to Molly for her sensitivity. And I know, and we'll talk about this next, but I know that you have lost Molly. And so I do just want to also, acknowledge Molly and the sadness of losing her, as well as losing, your dad as well. But these also having been such important relationships. So, I think when we begin to talk about pet bereavement, which we will talk about in the second half, it is something about having these losses is so painful, and yet you wouldn't be where you are today had you not had the love, had you not had the relationship. And I think black labs are a bit special because I have to mention my Poppy, who's no longer with us, and she was a black lab, and she used to often be in or around in the therapy room, particularly if I was working with people who had difficulties communicating, like autism or something like that. But what I noticed is that she would know just before I knew, or just before my client knew, when something was about upsetting was about to be spoken about. She'd just lift her head, and she must have been feeling that change in frequency just ahead of the person saying, I want to tell you about this. And then, I would feel sad and my client would feel sad, but the dog would have lifted her head just, half a second before that happening. And I always felt that she was a bit like a barometer in the therapy room. And once I had a client let her in, and she had lost her black Labrador. Her black lab had died, and for a lot of the time I would lock my dog in the kitchen. I went to get a glass of water for my client, and somehow I pulled the kitchen door closed behind me, but obviously not properly. By the time I got back to the therapy room, my client and my black lab were wrapped in this embrace. My client had tears running down her face. My dog was cuddling her, and I just thought, I couldn't have done an intervention deliberately as good as the one that Poppy did on that occasion. So, very special mention of Molly and Poppy, who've helped us both in our careers and our understanding of others. Now, I'm thinking that it might be good for us to go to a bit of a break here, and then when we come back, we can talk a little bit more about the dog psychology and some of the things that people find hard to face, pet bereavement, but also about a question that I have, which is can you really make money and run a business with heart? So let's take a break now.
Just before we take a break, Miriam,
Mm.
can I just mention that being a business owner has been one of the hardest jobs I've ever done,
Mm.
ever.
Mm.
And I mentioned about the daffodils.
Mm.
Down my drive, I
Mm.
planted 250 individual daffodil bulbs that come out every spring. And daffodils are self-setting, self-loving, beautiful, simple flowers. They are my anchor.
Mm.
So when things don't go to plan, which in business they don't, there's twists
Mm.
and turns, dark times, and all the rest of it, all I do is walk down my drive and look at my daffodils.
Mm.
So anybody that's having or experiencing or been there to that dark place, they need something to anchor them to make them keep going. And that
Yeah.
for me is the daffodils.
Mm. Thank you. Really love how you are grounding all this with your heart.
Are you coming out later in life? Are you partnered with someone who is? The Women with Women conference has you covered. Meet like-minded people and hear from authors, therapists and specialists at a beautiful venue in Sheffield. The first Women with Women conference is set for June 2025, and with limited spaces, tickets are available at womenofsteel.co.uk. We'll see you there. This event is not open to men or straight people.
Welcome back after the break. I'm talking to Dawn Brown from Dogland. And before the break, we were talking about, well, dogs and also how they help us, how they can support us when we're not feeling great, when we're feeling low. And there's also, we've started to talk about how we can help dogs by helping them with their nervous system and so on. Now, we were having a little chat in the break, and I said to Dawn, I said, I wish I'd got the record button on now, because there's a lot about our work that overlaps. And I think we've been saying about, the dog's nervous system and how they can increase our oxytocin. But there's also, I would say that probably all my clients have at some point been adversely affected by their employment, by where they've been working or where they've worked in the past. And you were telling me a little bit about your learning about human psychology, Dawn. Tell me a little bit more.
So I have a team of people that work for me. They work with me every single day. And in order to get 120% out of them, they need to feel like this in work, like it's part of them. So I needed to understand who they are, how they think, how their brains tick, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what are they good at, what are they not good at, what's their fight or flight mode. Like a dog, you get the ladder of aggression, so you know when you're at that point where there's no return. But what's that point of no return for humans? How does a boss find that out? So I've been and got some coaching that I'm doing, where I'm learning about the personality styles, things like disc profiling, the Belbin's test, VAC. So do they learn, are they visual, are they auditory, are they kinesthetic? Because all these things help you to build the right team and put everybody in the right place where they can feel relaxed, feel confident in their role, and give you that 120%, which is a business owner, that's ultimately what you want and what you need to be running effectively and productively. So I thought dog psychology and body language was mind-blowing. And it is, it really is. But human psychology and body language is a whole different level. And it's really interesting, and it's massively benefiting our team. So some team members have left the team because they were no longer part of the big vision. They weren't aligning with where the company is going. So I use the bus analogy. So my team are on a bus and I'm the driver, and we're going in one direction. If somebody's pulling in another direction, the bus is not going to run as smoothly as possible. Or maybe if they're sat in the wrong seat, so if they're in a customer service role but they hate talking, you've got to make sure that you dig deep and really find out about the people that are working alongside you. So by doing the tests, and like the Clifton Strengths test, which is an online quiz, and then it fires out your results, you see the patterns so that you can then tailor their job role to their best of their ability, basically. So it's a win-win. So they come to work and they're enjoying what they do because they're confident in what they're doing. And as a business owner, you're getting full maximum productivity out of that person. And then when you align your purpose and your passion, it no longer feels like work.
Yeah, and I think it makes them feel better, doesn't it? Because instead of trying to be who they're not, you're encouraging them to play to their strengths and
be themselves and be their better self.
Yeah.
And I've already spoke about my own personal development journey, but we have things like a gratitude jar. So we put little things on paper and we put it in the jar, and then monthly on our team meeting, I'll pull something out of the jar, and whoever it belongs to gets a little bit of something. We do things like that. We do team building exercises. We go out and socialise after work sometimes. Because we work long hours, that's hard to fit in. But we really are like a family now. We really are a close-knit family that if one's having a bad day because something's happening at home or whatever, we all pull together as a team because we all know our strengths and our weaknesses. And it's really helped me devise procedures and policies, because if somebody's a visual learner and all you're doing is talking to them, telling them how to do the job, it's not sinking in. So then they're not doing the job, and then you've got to manage that, and then you've got to put like disciplinary and all that does. Well, you can evade all that. You can get rid of all that if you understand the person and how they think and how they learn. So for the visual guys, we do video procedures now, and they're brilliant because they're able to see it. We've also got the written procedure, but it's understanding that person, and then they feel valued, and then they feel connected. And we have a vision statement and a mission statement, but I'm trying to build a culture as well, a culture where people actually enjoy coming to work and doing what they do. And again, once you've got that alignment, it's just, I can't even tell you. It's like having a dog and having that bond.
Well, it's, I think the thing is that because we're different, we're all different in different ways, that if we don't understand something because it's being told to us in the wrong way, that we end up feeling stupid or devalued or not understood, or as if other people, think we're not committed and so on. And so, the person benefits, but also surely their vibe around the dogs is impacted.
Frequency, definitely. Again, I'll mention it again, frequency with dogs. If they feel that you are anxious or you're nervous or you're worrying, they automatically feel them emotions, and then that comes out in their behaviour, because that's the only way dogs can express. It's all a link. So if you come in on a high positive energy vibe, you're going to have a good day at Dogland, because them dogs are going to feel it and sense it. So that's the culture I'm trying to bring into the whole dog industry. And when I talk to many business owners, they all say that a common theme, a common problem is staff. It's your team. They can't seem to recruit the right people that are right for the job, that are on their vision, on their mission. And really, it's because they've not took the time to dig deep and go below the surface to find actually who is your ideal employee, what strengths do they need, what can you adapt if they've got a weakness, and how can you adapt your learning style to suit theirs. And once you dig deep and you do find that information out, it becomes a game changer. And then you can build multi-award winning strong teams, which is what I've done. And ultimately, because I've got a strong team, it's allowed me to step out of the business to work on it rather than in it. Because if you're working the daily grind every single day, you're not going to scale and grow your business because you're tied to it. So if you've got the systems, the policies, the procedures in place, and you've got your team behind you running that and really align with you as a business owner, then sky's the limit. And that's where Dogland is at the minute.
Can you really, though, honestly, can you really make money and make a business work and have this ethos of spending time with people, of taking care of dogs' needs? Surely you'd make more money if you did just lock them in kennels, not the staff. But if you just lock the dogs in the kennels and let them out for 20 minutes as you worked.
Yeah, absolutely. To make the money, you could literally just bang your kennels full, 20-minute walk, one man on your yard looking after all them dogs. And a lot of corporate places still do that. For me, that's ethically wrong. You can do it the right way. You can pack them dogs in sociable, manageable packs if you do the trials, if you read the body language and understand the psychology behind their behaviour. It can all be done. And yes, you can make profit out of it, but how you do it is you build value for your customer. So in a sales process, we touch the base along the way, it's a journey, daycare and boarding, and that's how I see it. It's a journey. So right from the get-go, when you first make that inquiry, we walk you through the stages, building that trust all the way along, not only with the dog, which is our number one client, but with the owner as well. And even down to things like asking you what your favourite chocolate bar is, or what holidays do you like to go on? It's all market research, because then we can give back, we can give added value. So how good would you feel if you received a parcel through the post from the dog saying, "Hi mum, thanks for sending us to daycare. Here's your favourite chocolate bar. Enjoy this on us." It's just them little touches. And recently we've been working a lot on this behind the scenes, because as you know, Miriam, prices for everything went up in April. The government put the new rules in place and one thing and another, and everything goes up. We haven't done that. We've kept the same, because what we're going to do is introduce packages. So we're going to give customers more value. So the more value we can give our customers, they're not going to be then quibbling about the price going up by £3 or £4, because ultimately they're getting the added value. They're getting things like press packs and weekend pickups and drop-offs and everything that means something to them, and tailored to that actual package with that dog. You've got their loyalty and their commitment, because if you're giving back that value, then they're committed to you as a business, and it's a lifelong relationship for the length of that dog's life. And I truly believe that if we can bring people on board with pups, and we have done in the past, and we've held that dog through the puppy stage, to the toddler stage, to the adolescent stage, to the unruly teenager stage, right through to golden oldie, and then right through to the hardest piece of the puzzle, which is letting them go over the rainbow bridge, which both me and you know how heartbreaking that is. That's the hardest piece of the puzzle. I always say having a dog is like a jigsaw puzzle. So day one, you put in the puppy training, and day two, it's lead walking, and day three, it's this piece and that piece, and then the final piece is always the last piece that's the hardest, and that's when we say goodbye to them.
Yeah, and I can see just from looking at you that it doesn't get any easier, does it? When we remember this and when we go through it each time. And I quite often have clients who just say, I just can't get another dog. What do you think you've learned in your work and your personal life around pet bereavement? What do you think you've learned about that process, and how do you make it worth it for you?
I think pet bereavement is not spoken about enough. I think it's underrated. And I think people who haven't experienced it don't understand it. And so they dismiss it. And it doesn't get spoken about in public enough, I think. And it is a real thing. It is a process of grief. And once you've got a special bond with that dog, and when I mean a special bond, I mean you know that dog inside out, back to front, upside down, and he knows you or she knows you in the same frequent, same level. Once you have to say goodbye, it's the hardest job, and it really can affect your mental health, and it is a process of grieving. And a lot of people say, I can't get another dog, but eventually they do. And the reason they do is because they miss that bond so much, because you cannot get that bond from a human being.
You can't.
It is a special, unique bond. And I don't understand why people get dogs and then they can give them away. I just can't comprehend that thing. So what I ultimately believe in is there should be a vetting process right at the beginning. Are you right for this dog? Can you give it everything it needs? If you live in a high-rise apartment, do you really need a big Malinois, or would you be better off with a Chihuahua? And then that will stop the rescue centres from being overwhelmed and dogs coming into people's homes and not getting on with their family and their synergy, and then having to pass them on. I know it does happen, and for many reasons. So I'm not totally denying that it doesn't happen, but there's ways of avoiding it. But going back to pet bereavement, it's genuinely not spoke about, and it is an actual thing. And I've been with clients on this journey, so I've brought them through the ranks, and then it's been time to let them go. And it's, as a dog owner, sometimes we hold on to our pets for selfish reasons, because we don't want to let go of that bond. And for me, it was quality of life. So when Molly she was 12, and she had a cyst on her chest. And I knew that it had turned cancerous because it had gone hard, and it was really soft before it was a fatty tissue, but obviously it turned to cancer. And I looked that dog in the eye and I said, "Is it time to go, Moles?" And she put her head on me and she gave me a sign. And I asked her again and she did the exact same thing.
Mm.
So the very next day, I got the travelling vet to come to my site, sat on my garden in her favourite spot in the sunshine, and we said goodbye.
Mm.
That is the hardest part.
Yeah.
And that took me many, many months to get over.
Mm.
But she saved my life, remember? So I really do think that it's underestimated and it needs talking about more. And there needs to be some help for people to get over that grieving process. And that's probably where you come in on how to get you back to. You never really get back to the old you because you're missing a part of you.
It does. It does.
Carry on.
Yeah, the pain, I don't think stops. It's just less frequent. But whenever it comes back, it hurts just as much, in my
Even now,
experience.
just talking about it, I'm
I
feeling
know,
up.
I know,
And as
I
I look
know.
around my office, I see pictures of her,
Mm,
and I'm reminded of her every single day. She's on,
mm,
when you
mm,
pull into our car park, the big banner, she's in the bottom left-hand corner with a football in her mouth, which was
mm.
her most pride of joy, that football. And I actually, when I got cremated, the football went with her.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
don't talk about it enough, and it really is. Pet bereavement really is something that we need to look at as a society, and try and figure out some steps of how we can help and support people on that journey.
I really agree, and I think it's a full physiological process as well, which, it's a terrible thing to say in general society, but it can be worse for your dog to die than even for a parent, because of the synchronizing of your breathing and this frequency thing that you're talking about. They're there every moment and they're following you everywhere, and you're feeding them. And some of us who might not want to admit it might be sleeping with their dogs, and there's this real connection, and it's quite a physical one. So it can really affect our physical health as well as our mental health. But I do think this capacity to love really opens us up. And there's no way I can prove this, but there's something about the way that you're employing people, the way that you're working with people, the way that you let your tears flow and you let your passion, you're almost shouting with passion about the things that mean a lot to you. That's just about, really being alive, really being engaged in being alive. And the bereavement that we feel is a sign of how engaged in life and in relationship with our pet that we've been. So, Dawn, I'm thinking about people listening in and beginning to trust, perhaps to leave their dog with somebody. What should somebody look for if they do need some doggy daycare?
So the first thing that I would want to know is I'd want to build, know, and build and trust the people that are looking after my dog. So I'd want to know that they're asking the right questions. So, like I mentioned before, we have a lengthy profile that we send out to dog owners after they've made first point of contact that tells us all about their dog before they even step one paw on site. Now, for me, that's all about building the trust up, knowing that we can give your dog the care that you give your dog. Anybody that just accepts any dog, any breed, I would definitely steer away from. I would be wanting to be inclined to go more towards the people that want to actually know about your dog. What's its traits, what's its likes, what does it eat, what's its favourite toy, things like that. So that's the first thing. Second thing I would say is try and book a viewing. So we do them by appointment only. And the only reason we do that is because we do have, like such as your dogs, we do have certain dogs on site that are nervous around new people. And we've took the time to try and work with that dog and build that trust and that confidence up in that dog. That can all be destroyed if we then start showing strangers around the site whilst we've got these dogs on site. So we do the viewings by appointment only. Now, a lot of people say they'll rock up to the gate, they'll ring us and they'll say, we're in the area and want to have a look round. Well, sorry, no, that's not an option, because that particular day I might have got your dogs on site. And I don't want your dogs being stressed because somebody new is walking past their paddock. It's not happening, because none of my dogs are stressed when they come to Rose Cottage. I don't care if the king's at the gate, he's not getting in. So that's another thing that I'd look for. And then when you do a viewing, it's an open book at Rose Cottage. I show you around the whole site. I show you absolutely everything behind every single gate, all the site. There's no hidden corners. When I've worked in corporate kennels before, they've had a lovely set of kennels that don't get used, that look the absolute dog's bananas, but they don't get used. And behind that is where all the corporate kennels are. Now, for me, that's ethically wrong. And if you come into Rose Cottage, you see the real deal and you see absolutely everything. And if there's mud in the field, there's mud in the field. And the dogs love the mud in the field 9 times out of 10. So you get the full show around. And I'd be asking questions, things like on compliance, and asking that daycare centre, what's it mean when a dog wags its tail? If they say it means it's happy, I'd be very wary, because a dog can wag its tail and not always be happy. So it's understanding that body language and that psychology, and ask them how they mix that dog in the first place. So do they just literally open the door and chuck the dog in? Or do they do it slowly, integrate it with 1 dog, then 2 dogs, then 4 dogs, then so on and so on? So it's understanding how they interact the dogs on the first session, because if it's done wrong, it can do a whole lot of damage to that dog. And then whoever gets that dog next is going to have to rewire all that, and it then becomes an even harder task. So things like that, I'd ask them what cleaning products they use. I'd steer away from anybody that says they use bleach or any other harsh chemicals. I'd always go with the pet-friendly options. They might not even tell you what they use. And again, that'd be a red flag for me. I'd want to know ins and outs of everything. If I'm sending my babies somewhere, I want to know they're safe from the minute I drop them off to the minute I pick them up. And communication, keeping that communication open between owner and dog is very important. And especially for some people that have got separation anxiety, they want to know that their dog is looked after when they're not there. If they're leaving it for the first time, they're going to be worried. Genuinely, they're going to be worried. Can we reassure them? Can we send them a picture? Can we send them a press pack? Is there anything we can do to accommodate their need as a parent? If you're sending your kid to school, it's exactly the same ethos. And we try to keep that communication clear. Anybody that doesn't do that or is not willing to offer that, again, I'd be a bit wary as to whether I'd leave my dogs there or not.
Yeah. And I think, I have to say that I'm really, really happy. That's why I'm interviewing you, because I want to encourage people to know that they can do things the way that feels right for them. Something that we learnt about during COVID was this idea of moral injury. And moral injury is really what happened to you when you were made to work in situations that were against your ethics, against your heart, and you just couldn't do it. And I think that we can work and we can run businesses in a heart-led way and in an ethical way. And it's not just about doing the right thing, it's about being at peace with ourselves and our own nervous system. And so, what you've done is incredibly difficult, because you have taken on the business world. And we'll have to put this in the show notes and in your bio, because we haven't got time to go into all the different awards and nominations and so on that you've had. But you have an extremely successful business, but it is actually based on a model that says much more about you, than the traditional ways of working. are not as visible in your business. You know, you're really doing it from a heart-led place. Now, I'm just going back to that Dawn who was just standing on the bridge and ready to get off, jump off the planet, really. What about people who want to find a way forward that is heart-led, that is ethical, that is about them and their personality? I don't know if you can hear my dogs barking. They're barking in the background. They'll be on the recording. Obviously, somebody's seen a cat or something. But what would you say to, you know, the younger Dawn, or, you know, younger people now who are in a very similar place to where you were, and they're thinking, how am I going to make a living in such a harsh, unethical world?
I would say don't think about the how, think about the why.
Mm.
And I'd say believe and you will achieve.
Mm.
So it's that self-belief that you can achieve whatever you dream of, whatever that is, whether it's a solicitor, accountant, dog walker, doggy daycare owner, mental health helper. It doesn't matter. It's why you're doing it, because your why is the most important part, because it will get you up every morning and it will set you on the journey of where you want to be. Where is the goal? Where are you heading? And all you've got to do is keep moving. Even if it's one step at a time, it's one step towards where you want to be and why you want to be there. So for me, the reason I got down off that bridge was because Molly was barking, and she was telling me that my passion and my purpose and I truly believe this, the reason I was put on this planet is to make a difference in our industry, in the kennel industry, in the daycare industry. And she was telling me it wasn't my time to go, it's my time to shine. And that self-confidence and that self-belief has come, and I've had to build that up. And the more you get knocked down, it's harder to get back up, but it's about why you get back up. And mine is because I want to be known as the crazy dog lover that revolutionised care in the canine community using technology and innovation. And that's what I live and breathe by. And I will get there. I know I will, and I will be known as the crazy dog lover, because I am. But it's knowing your why. So one step at a time, know your why, and believe and you will achieve.
And you're actually, this is part of your movement forward, is you want to help other people to
do
absolutely.
This. Yeah, absolutely. So my mission in life is to be able to help and inspire other people that are setting out on a business journey, whether it's in my industry or it's not. It's all about the key foundations so that they can put the foundations in place and grow and scale and make a lifestyle business, if it's a lifestyle business that they want, to ensure that they're living their dream and being and doing and having exactly what aligns with them as a person. Because we only get one life, Miriam, and we've got to live it. And for a long time, I didn't see that, and I nearly ended it all. And there's so much more I can give to this universe, and I'd be giving everybody a disservice if I didn't help others with the things that I've struggled with. So that's what my mission is, to be able to help other people. And I'm a giver. People call me Big Out Brownie because I get joy out of helping people. And I know that sounds really cheesy, but I really do. Even if it's just helping somebody across the street, that ticks a box for me. And I think we need more people like that in our world today. And if I can help more people get into that mindset, then my legacy for my kids is, in the world that they're going to live in and be brought up in, is going to be a much better place.
Oh, I think you'll have helped people today just by them listening to you. What would you like to be remembered for, Dawn?
Crazy dog lover that revolutionised care in the canine community, and a family mum and a mum. And I want to be able to give my kids the confidence to be and do and have whatever it is that they want.
Thank you so much for talking to me about your life and your work and the heart at the centre of it.
No, thank you for opportunity.
Dawn's story makes me wonder where some people find the strength to continue. Maybe her relationship with her dad, her dog, and her daughter were anchor points, but the choice to go on and realize her dream was something that she did herself and at a time when she was most depleted. Becoming who we already are is my take on this. Not striving to change, but letting go into authenticity, into that listening within. Measuring success is really problematic when we use job title, income, or physical ability to measure ourselves. Take it from me and from Dawn that if we change the measuring stick of success to that of being aligned with ourselves, our unique contributions, then the outcome of fulfillment is closer to you than you might think. When I asked Dawn what her theme song would be, she said, "Don't stop believing." And I think that having hope is a crucial part of coming through our darkest times. Please contact a doctor or a health professional if you've lost hope. You might need some support to tide you through until you can hope again. Thank you for listening to Women of Steel, created and hosted by me, Miriam Grace, psychotherapist at Blue Skies. If you'd like to know more about my work as a therapist and writer, you can follow me on social media. Please take a look at the show notes for information and contact details. And in the meantime, be kind to yourself.